Welcome to Sports Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nick from Top Notch Sports, along with
Mike and Jackson.
And today we're going to be covering the Houston Texans off-season salary recap review. And look, here's what happens here, fellas. This team, this Houston Texans team, as we all know, is kind of in shambles right now. And they got to make a lot of moves, right? Their head coach is in question. They just signed the new GM, Nick Caserio. They're thinking about right now moving on from Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of rumors in the air for this franchise. But that's what we're going to get into today. Look at their salary cap review, and let's hop right into it. And let's let Jackson take the center stage. Go ahead, Jackson. Take it away.
Thank you, Nick. As we see here, this team is not really in a good position right now. They're $18 million in the hole. They don't have a head coach. And, I mean, if you look around on the screen, they really don't have any young pieces. I mean, J.J. Watt's getting up there in age. Brandon Cooks, I mean, he hasn't really done anything these past couple of years. Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be there. So this team really doesn't have any young pieces. And say if they were to cut some pieces like J.J. Watt, Brandon Cooks, David Johnson, they would save some money. But, I mean, they wouldn't have enough money to get back into the positives, really, where they can go out and get a big name.
Exactly. And Jackson's 100% correct. I mean, you look at this team, the true superstars here are Deshaun Watson, right? J.J. Watt. But again, those two alone are not going to win a bunch of games. And being negative $18.3 million in the hole, like Jackson said, if you cut David Johnson, cut Brandon Cooks, cut J.J. Watt, you're barely out of the hole, and you don't have enough money to truly sign anybody in free agency. So, again, is it worth it? Probably not. But, again, we're going to have a little fun with this one as we get into a few of the later slides. We'll have Mike do a few potential trade opportunities for this team and some hypotheticals. But right now, let's look, and I'm going to pass it down to Mike on the notable losses sheet. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, let's take a look at these notable losses. First, you got Brennan Scarlett in the edge. He played 25.8% of the snaps, and to bring him back, it looks like it'll cost them, it'll be a 2-year deal worth about $2.5 million. So now the next guy is a little bit bigger of a loss. Wide receiver Will Fuller. His desired and expected contract is somewhere along the lines of 5 years, $87.5 million, and he played 58.9% of the Texans snaps this year. Would have been more if he didn't get in trouble for steroids. Let's move on to the next guy. Vernon Hargraves, cornerback. His expected contract is a 4-year, $20 million deal, and he was a big piece of this defense, playing 88.6% of the snaps. That is a big number to lose. And then we got linebacker Tyrell Adams. His expected contract would be a 1-year, $1 million deal, and he played 73.4% of the snaps. And then we got Carlos Watkins, D-tackle. Not a big deal, 1 year, $1.5 million, played 49% of the snaps. But the problem here is they have no money to pay any of these guys. And even if they went on and cut J.J. Watt, cut Brandon Cooks, and cut David Johnson, they wouldn't have enough money to make an impact to better their team at all. So that's why I'll discuss this next, or the trade scenarios on the next slide, right? That's the next slide.
Yeah. In 2 slides from now, but we'll be right there. But look, here's the thing about what Mike just said. Usually guys that play large percent of the snaps, maybe you would like to bring back, but a team that's negative $18 million in the cap hole, you're not going to be able to bring these guys back. So as we get into the next slide, here's what we actually think they're going to probably do. Here's what's probably realistic. And unfortunately for the Texans, negative $18.3 million in cap space. We're estimating probably no cuts. Again, in order for them to get out of this hole, it's not likely. It's not likely. They would have to cut David Johnson. They would have to cut Brandon Cooks. They would have to cut J.J. Watt. All these guys just to get back in the positives. And even then, they would only be maybe $7 million positively, which is not enough to make a huge signing. So it's most likely they just play it out and move on. And that means it would still be negative $18.3 million before the draft, which is what it is. You look at the team needs here. Look, here's the team needs. They need a running back, a receiver, a tight end, a right tackle, a 3-4 DN, and an inside linebacker. And again, usually for these videos, we would say maybe they would sign a running back. Maybe they would sign a wide receiver. But unfortunately for the Texans, negative $18.3 million in the cap hole. No money at all, no expected cuts. We got to say they're going to probably have to draft all these positions, which is very unfortunate. But on the next slide, Mike will show us a few hypothetical situations that would be pretty interesting as fans of football or a Houston Texans fans that might get you on your feet and might make you excited for this offseason. Mike, go ahead, take it away for the rebuild mode.
This would
scenario.
be our rebuild mode. This is pretty much the only way they can somewhat improve this train wreck for future betters. So it would be trading Deshaun Watson, who everyone in the NFL knows wants out of Houston. There's no secret there. To Miami for Tua, the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft and the 18th overall pick in this year's draft. And then it would also be from moving on from J.J. Watt, trading him to the L.A. Chargers for their 3rd round pick, which is the 77th overall pick. And then moving on from Brandon Cooks, a guy who has been traded and moved around a lot his whole career, but he doesn't have much value as we've seen during his prior trades. So it'll be traded to Baltimore for their 6th rounder. So then in the 2021 draft, they'll have the 3rd overall pick in the 1st round and the 18th overall pick. They still will not have a 2nd round pick. They'll have 2 3rd round picks, 67th and 77th. They'll have 2 4th rounders, the 99th and the 112th. They'll have 1 5th rounder, the 130th. They'll have 3 6ths, the 163rd, 175th, and 187th. And then they'll have 1 in the 7th round, the 193rd pick. In this scenario, we would say they cut David Johnson because they will get draft picks and draft a running back. So here, go up here to the team needs. We could see him taking running back Chuba Hubbard in the 3rd round. We can see him taking Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama, reunite him with Tua. They're going to need a tight end. They're going to need a right tackle. And then in the 1st round, with their later pick, we see Gregory Rousseau as an option, a good D end. And then they're going to need an interior linebacker also. Nick, would you like to take over?
Yes, I will. And thank you again for passing it on. One quick fits real fast, 186, 187th. I got to figure out which one that is. I'm sorry about that. We'll figure it out. But look, here's what we got here. Mike's 100% right. Chuba Hubbard could be a really good option, right, to fill in for David Johnson. You had the 1st round pick in Devontae Smith. Pair him up, like Mike said, with Alabama quarterback Tua, right, if this was to happen. And then you had Gregory Rousseau, who's a really good edge rusher to replace J.J. Watt. So again, you're getting Tua to replace Deshaun, Gregory Rousseau, a younger option to replace J.J. Watt, and Devontae Smith to replace Brandon Cooks, making this team younger, better, and hopefully stronger for years to come. Jackson, go ahead, take it away.
So as we see here in the rebuild mode slide, what this team would kind of look like next year, as you see with all these moves, they're going to go down from $2 million in the hole instead of $18 million. It's a big difference, but again, not enough to go out and sign a guy. So as you see here in the pink, we got probably maybe the biggest piece right here is Tua Tagovailoa, the 2nd-year quarterback. He's going to be, trying to lead this team into a spot where they can win. And then you see with these draft picks, the guys in blue, Devontae Smith, like Mike said, pair him back up with his Alabama friend Tua Tagovailoa, Chuba Hubbard, slide him in at running back, and Gregory Rousseau at the edge filling in for J.J. Watt. And the guys in yellows, those guys are going to be placeholders. John Reed, Chad Hansen, Jordan Akins, Peter Callum, I don't even know how to say that.
Callum Beggy. Yeah, I don't know.
Beggy, yeah. Those guys are going to be placeholders with those later picks in the draft that we expect the Houston Texans to get in the later rounds.
Absolutely. And this would be the expected starters if this was to happen. And again, these are just the 1st and 3rd round pick that they have. They would still have to draft a cornerback. They got a lot of picks, right? On the last slide, on this slide, you see how many more picks they have. The placements that we have are just using the first 3 picks that they have, right? So as we go back here now, you see they can still draft a cornerback, draft an inside linebacker, draft a wide receiver, and a tight end, and you plug them in for these positions, the ones that are highlighted in yellow, to replace them, and you get your team much younger. And again, this could be the process of the rebuild mode. But then there's probably the more realistic, but we'll see, the play it out mode. You keep Deshaun Watson. You keep David Johnson. You keep Brandon Cooks. You keep J.J. Watt. Now you're still $18.3 million in the hole, and you just play it out with whoever that new coach may be. This team, we've already seen what they can do. They can't really do much, but are they going to make all these hypothetical utopian trades that we got laid out for them? Probably not. Would it be amazing? Absolutely. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, this is probably more realistic, but I want to head down to Mike and Jackson real fast. I'll start with Mike. Mike, would you choose the rebuild mode if everything was to work out, or would you go with the play it out mode?
Well, I'm going with the rebuild mode because we already know the play it out mode, their ceiling, they won 4 games this year. They were a terrible football team. And then because of a bad GM, they don't even have their first round pick that they should have this season. We just got to see how Nick Caserio, we got to see how aggressive he is. Who knows? Maybe he wants to move Deshaun Watson right away. As soon as he's able to, maybe he wants to trade Deshaun Watson to get his team draft capital. That's personally the way I would lean with it, because he doesn't want to be there. Why would you want a player on your roster who does not want to be there? So I'm definitely going with the rebuild team, even though it most likely all won't happen. Hopefully one of the things happen and we see Deshaun Watson get moved for a lot of draft capital. That I think we can expect, because I think Deshaun Watson will not lace his cleats up and play another snap for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Jackson, what do you choose? Do you choose the play it out mode or the rebuild mode?
Again, I'm going to have to agree with you, Mike. I'm going to go with the rebuild mode. This team, again, it's the same team as last year pretty much, and they only won 4 games. Again, Deshaun Watson probably won't take another snap for the Houston Texans. So I'm going to have to go with the rebuild mode, get these guys, get a little chemistry, let them play with each other, and hopefully this team can contend in a few years.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you guys as well. Even though it's more realistic, this mode happened. The play it out, the boring, the just not fun mode happens, right? The team that's not going to win a lot of games. Deshaun Watson's a generational talent. He's amazing. J.J. Watt is amazing, but they're not going to be able to do it themselves, and they're $18 million in the hole. If you look at this team's fun. I'm sorry. The highlighting, everything just makes this team amazing. I mean, you got Tua with his old buddy, old pal, Devontae Smith. You got Chuba Hubbard in the backfield. Gregory Rousseau filling in for J.J. Watt, right? And then you got all the yellow guys that are probably going to be replaced, all the highlighted players that can be replaced in the draft with the draft capital that they have. Again, look, I really like Deshaun Watson, but if he doesn't want to play here, you get rid of him and you bring in somebody else. This whole thing kind of is very interesting. And Mike, as you said a long time ago, this is all due to Bill O'Brien.
Yes, you should put that in the end of this video too, just to have it in there.
Yeah, literally. I might put it in where you bash on Bill O'Brien, but that's about all. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all around the world, let us know what you guys think they should do. Should they go play it out mode, rebuild mode? What do you think they're going to do? Not just what you want, but what you think they're going to do. Let us know if you like the video. We got 30 more of these to do. We're going to cover every single team, and let us know what you guys think. But that's all from Top Notch Sports. I'm Nick.
Mike.
And Jackson.
For Top Notch Sports, we are
Built Better.
See you guys soon. Peace.